The firewood is used to power giant boilers that produce steam to dry the tea leaves after they are picked. Steam that averages a temperature of 150 degrees Celsius, and the preferred type of wood comes from eucalyptus trees. When the tea leaves are picked, they contain a lot of water, and what we do here is evaporate it so that we are left with at most 66% of what they came with. The Shagasha Tea Company has been in operation for 57 years, consuming thousands of trees in the process, though as time passes, efforts have been made to reduce the amount of firewood it uses. The company has its own forests to source the firewood, but also relies on supplies from local residents for close to half of the firewood it uses. Efforts have been made in the past to break free of its need for firewood, but to no avail. Efforts were once made to use briquettes made from Bugarama rice husks, and the research was done, but they could not produce enough heat. They also tried to use others made from coffee, and all that failed. Our need for firewood is really worrying, especially when you think that it is becoming too expensive, and we have seen a 30% price hike in just 1 year. The company has 350 hectares of its own forests, and 100,000 new tree seedlings are to be planted in October this year. All this is so that it does not run out of firewood. Our efforts began in 2017, and we now have 105 new hectares that have been planted since, using different types of trees to ensure good forests. At the Gisakura Tea Factory, one will find a similar story. A company in operation since 1975 and using thousands of trees to burn as firewood to operate its giant boilers and remain in business. Here too, tree planting is done to ensure continued supply while alternatives to firewood are sought, as well as buying newer boilers that use less firewood. We have chosen to buy new boilers because the ones you see there are old and used far more firewood. During the rainy season, we were using up to 4 piles of wood per ton of tea leaves. During this dry season, we are down to 3.5, and we should be at 2 piles or less per ton of dried tea leaves. Executives at both companies told us that they are assured of firewood supplies for the next 50 years, maybe more, and officials at the National Agricultural Export Development Board say for now, all that can be done is find ways to minimize the amount of firewood needed to keep such factories operational. Things are still hard for the tea sector, and research is ongoing, but we do not have an alternative to firewood right now. Our efforts have instead turned to reducing the amount of firewood required for the results we want from the sector. So far, that is where the research is focusing on. The Rwanda Water and Forestry Authority says there is no immediate danger of firewood running out, but it does not mean the factories should not find ways to conserve its use. The good news is that we are working with the tea factories to ensure that only old forests are cut down and new ones are planted to replace them, and I do not see that as a problem. However, we want authorities in the energy sector to find a lasting solution so that these factories that use so much firewood can find alternative energy sources to dry their tea leaves. 1 hectare of forest is used to dry leaves from 3 hectares of tea plantations, and a eucalyptus tree takes a decade to mature before it can be cut down for this purpose, 15 years if you want to use it for timber. Rwanda currently has 724,000 hectares of forest cover, 61,000 belonging to the government. Experts say using electricity to heat the boilers at tea processing factories would be too expensive, and it can only meet 15% of their energy needs to keep expenses down, with firewood still relied on at 85%. Rwanda currently has 15 tea processing factories.